Thank you. So y'all help me welcome Richard Martinez. I love you. You crazy shit. That's good. I think that's good, right? Can you all hear me back there? Yes, sir. I'm Richard, and I'm an alcoholic. Hey. Oh my God, you would have thought the Lord Jesus was coming up here to talk to you all the way they taught me up here. I want to tell you that I have spoken and taught classes of 500 on the university level, and I never got nervous. I can be in a pulpit and preach a really good sermon and never be nervous. Put me in front of you crazy shits, and I get nervous. I'm supposed to tell you what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. My sobriety date is December 28th, 2012. I just celebrated 10 years through God's grace and the grace of all of you. All of you. And my niece Kim here, the beautiful woman in the pink hat, was the one who did the intervention and brought me to Florida to do a rehab. So she and her husband have saved my life with all of you. So I get a little confused. I'll tell you about the other illness I suffer, and that's why. I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and 3/4 of myself is Italian, 1/4 Spanish from Spain. All my family came over here from Italy and Spain in 1910. My great-grandparents had an arranged marriage, which lasted over 60 years. And so when we make a commitment, we really work at it very hard. I will tell you, my life today is remarkable. I wouldn't trade what I have for all the money in the world. And that's because I surrendered. Growing up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, we had a great cultural diversity in our neighborhoods and in where I grew up. And I was taught by nuns from Poland, World War II survivors, who personally beat the shit out of several Nazis, and then came to America to teach little children. I was also taught by monks, Franciscan monks, in my high school level. And I knew I wanted to be a teacher, but I wasn't sure about the religious life aspect of education. But I loved the monks. And when I was a senior, I had to make a decision about where I was going to go to school and go to college. And so I told my parents, I said, I think I'm going to enter religious life and join the Franciscans in the monastery. My mother was thrilled. My father cried. And he said, have a little bit of life experiences before you get in there. But I was bound and determined. So at the age of 17, the same summer that I graduated from high school, I entered the monastery. And I would still be in monastic life had the monks not died out, but actually that's what happened. There were no young men coming in, and so I was shipped to different places to see if I could fit in. One of the places was Belmont Abbey. And so my first time here in Gaston County was at the Abbey. And that was in the 90s, and so a lot of the men at that time were elderly there, and so I didn't see a future growing old with so many old men, because I was young. I will tell you that I wouldn't have traded that experience for all the money in the world. I was in an Irish province. Most of the men had come from Dublin, Ireland. And so that is where I learned how to drink. I can tell you exactly when it was the first time I got drunk. Okay, now you have to picture this. I'm in the mountains of Pennsylvania. It is my 21st birthday. We had about 8 inches of snow that evening, on top of about 11 inches the time before, so things were frosty and frozen. And I was in school at the time at the college that we ran down in the valley. So to picture this, it's like this Gothic castle on top of a mountain, and then a road, 2-lane road down like 321 used to be, all the way down to the college. And so here I am. My religious name was Fidelis. It's a Latin word. It means faithful. It was given to me. I had never heard of the word before, but okay, call me what you want. Just don't call me a crazy bastard. So my superior knocks on my door at 4:30 in the morning, and he says, I've heard you've had some lessons about driving the bus. He said, Father Tony said that you could drive the bus for us. He's very ill this morning, and so we're going to let you drive the bus down. So I said, I have got to tell you, I have only driven the bus in the parking lot. I have not really been on a street. And this is the part where so many of you have been in car accidents or wrecked a car. I never did that. I wrecked an entire school bus with 45 monks and nuns aboard. Okay, so I was scared to death about driving this bus. And so I thought, okay, I had pants on at the time, and now I have 48 yards of black material on, so it's going to be a little hard to find my feet, let alone my legs, with all these pedals. So I went into the refectory, the common room, and we had a bar there. It was an open bar. You could have a cocktail anytime. So I liked scotch. So I thought, I'm going to just pray and have this scotch and relax my crazy ass down. So I had one, and it really felt good. And so I see everybody going outside to enter the bus, and that's what made me nervous. So I had cocktail number 2. So with that, I felt a lot better. I thought, maybe I really can do this. You know how you get when you drink, you can do anything? Yeah, I can do this. And so I get on the bus. There's an elderly monk behind me, Anthony, straight from Dublin. And he said, brother, I've got to tell you now, I made a toddy for you this morning. I want you to take this toddy. It'll relax your nerves on the way down the mountain. I know you're a bit scared, but don't be. And he said, and I brought you a little pill to take too. It'll settle your nerves as well. So mind you, 2 scotches, a Valium, and a toddy. At 21, I'm about 145 pounds. So everybody comes aboard. Picture this. I have about 11 nuns. The rest are all monks. We get on the bus, and they say, okay, well, let us start praying. Oh, I thought to myself, yeah, you really need to pray. So I got the bus out on that 2-lane highway and looked down, and I thought, I can do this. I can do this. So I started the bus down the road, and they're praying the rosary behind me, and I'm trying to focus and concentrate. And I'm in 4th gear, and I can see kind of the ass end of the bus doing something in my rear view mirror, which was huge. And I had this huge wheel. I don't remember it being that big when I was, practicing, but it was huge. And so I thought, we are sliding. I need to reduce the gears. And so reduce the gears I did, all the way down to 1st gear. So we're going about 55 in 1st gear. So can you imagine the sound that bus was making besides the screaming going on behind you? Nobody had ever called me names like these sweet holy monks called me that day. And about halfway down, Brother Anthony behind me says, make sure you put it in 1st gear. In 1st gear. I said, it is in 1st gear. He said, I'm looking down. You know what it was? We've lost the brake fluid, brother. There's brake fluid all about the ground. I said, no, that's not brake fluid. I pissed myself. The only way people had survived this was me banging the bus into the woods along this side, rather than have us go over the side of the cliff, which there were sometimes a railing and sometimes not. So I thought, oh my God, I can't do this. I don't care if you take me now. Please spare these crazy shits behind me. So we managed to get down this mountain. About 14 of our windows on this side were broken in. Nobody was in the seat where they started. They're cussing and swearing. I get all the way down to the bottom of the hill, smashed 3 cars on the college campus. Now the kids are coming out for first period class. And so this is a sight like you can't friggin' believe ever in your life. Screaming, broken windows, side of the bus smashed it a little bit, and some nut job that's higher than a Georgia pine is driving that bus. We haul the bus all the way down into the garden area, and there's this beautiful large statue of the Blessed Virgin and a little statue of Saint Bernadette, like kneeling like this, praying. And I thought if I could jump off the street and get us into the grass, it will slow us down. Because we're still going maybe 60, 65. Okay? So that's what I decided to do because I was thinking clearly. And I knew I could do this. That's what we did. We jumped into the grass. Bernadette went under the front wheels. I stopped the bus. And I was insulted by this comment when we stopped, because one of the nuns said, "Oh look, the Holy Virgin saved us." And I said, let me tell you something. One Holy Virgin didn't save you, this one saved you. My life, I was very young and naive, and the second time I got drunk, I was superior of the house. Listen to this. At 25 years old, I was superior of the house and principal of a school in the mountains. And one of our priests had died. He was killed in a car accident. One of us went over the side of that hill drunk. And so, not knowing what the protocol was for being a superior when somebody dies on you, one of the elderly nuns said, well, once the body is taken out of the room, well, of course he never made it to his room, we put a seal over the door, a ribbon with 2 wax seals. And then after the funeral, the superior and one of the brothers goes into that room and takes out anything that might not really be there for a holy monk, you know? Because then the family's going to come into that room and take any personal effects that they want. And I said, oh, I get it. So the seal was on the door, and I picked one of the elderly monks to go with me. Meantime, I'm drunk. We're having an Irish wake for this poor guy, okay? And so this is the second time I'm drunk. So I take my brother Paul in with me. He says, I'll take the drawers, you take the closet. I said, okay. So I opened the closet, and there are women's clothes in there, young, naive, and drunk. And I said, oh my God, he's got a woman living here with us. I don't understand how she got in and out of this place so secretly. I don't understand. Father Jack wouldn't allow Christ in this place after that. You know? And he said, you and I need to have a little talk. Surely to God, your parents have told you about the birds and the bees. And I said, of course. And he said, they left out the part about the butterflies. Let's sit down here and let's talk about the butterflies. Monastic life was wonderful. It was hard. It was a life of sacrifice. I knew that there was something really different about me because when I would start drinking, it was so good I didn't want to put the next cocktail down. But I stayed a functioning alcoholic for many years, and there were years in those 25 that I never drank at all. And so at the end of I had 3 vows that I took, poverty, chastity, and obedience. And when I wrote to Rome to have my vows dispensed, Benedict was the Pope then, the German. And so he wasn't real keen on allowing me to be dispensed right away, so I had to stay a year in vows dressed as a lay person. It was really great. This was my biggest thrill, to put a pair of pants on and pee standing up. So I left, went out west to a school. So this is what it was like. My life was good. It was about 4 or 5 years into teaching that they made me a principal in monastic life, and I truly, truly will boast of one thing. That was my gift. And so over the years, I've helped thousands of children get a really good education, and that's my joy. So I had to leave, went out west, was dressed as a layperson, had Mr. in front of my name. Nobody knew I was still in vows and where I had come from. But I was invited by that bishop, O'Brien, because he used to come to the mountains of Pennsylvania to summer with us because it was cool up there. And so what happened was, this school had gone through 11 priests at one time, pastors. And so there was no consistency. I was there from 86 to 95, my first term as principal. I had come to North Carolina to become principal at St. Michael's here in town. And they had gone through 9 pastors in the 8 years that I was gone. So I was asked to go back. So that's what I did. And it was really a good move on the church's part to move me there. Because I knew, even though I was a little frightened by the prospect of going back, I thought, this isn't always good, but I'll do my best. And so my best we did. Remodeled the school, put in a new curriculum, brought the enrollment way up. It was about 375 kids. We brought it to about 840, so it was well funded. And unfortunately, I didn't know at the time that the new pastor that was there was molesting 2 of the boys in my school. And you have to understand, being in charge of that school, how horrified I was to find out that this was going on. So I'm going to make a very long and painful story very short, but this is what happened. Those 2 parents were encouraged to go to the media because the bishop was not making a decision to have him removed. He should have been removed immediately. And after 30 days, the parents went to the press. So I received a email from my superintendent that my contract is not going to be renewed after this school year. And this was about February of the school year. So I was being punished, and that was okay. I didn't mind whatsoever at first. And then the upheaval that this caused, I uncovered so much, and I don't use this word often, but I will use it, evil. When it comes to children, I have a really, really hard time with that. And these parents and these boys were devastated. So what I did was, I joined those 2 parents in a lawsuit. It wasn't about the money. It was about clearing my name from having gone to the press and complaining to the bishop that he was not being a good bishop and the superintendent. So I uncovered all of this shit. I cannot tell you. The church was paying people off left and right to drop this case. The chief of police received a check for $75,000, and the superintendent. It was just drama. So here's this sweet little guy, from the mountains of Pennsylvania doing great things, and all of a sudden I'm in this cesspool of chaos and drama and illness, real illness. So we got a lawyer, good Catholic boy from Boston, and we decided to sue the diocese. Those 2 boys, I wanted to make sure that they never wanted anything for the rest of their lives. And I didn't care about money for me. I just wanted my name cleared, period. There were people picketing, like 500 and 600 parishioners every Sunday picketing to get that priest out of that parish. And to save my job, because they loved me and they knew I was good and he was bad. So long story short, when all of this is going on, I start having this breakdown on the inside because the bride, the church that I loved and gave my life to for 25 years had thrown me out without a second thought. Broke my spirit, broke my soul, broke me physically, mentally, emotionally, and I went to the doctor, my doctor, and she started me on sedatives. And so I was sedated, and of course drinking. And I noticed something. I would start shaking when I was really nervous about something, like going to the depositions and having to face these people one-on-one. And I can tell you that I had an out-of-body experience every time I needed to face that evil. It was like God was working through me. Because I found the courage and strength to make things right for those two boys and for everybody else. And that's what I did. I had to file bankruptcy because the little money that I did receive from the church, here's what I did with it. I went to the liquor store, of course, bought a case of scotch, just so I wouldn't run out. Went to the bank, got $100 bills, went to every car wash, every laundromat, every homeless shelter that there was, and I gave that $45,000 to everybody who needed $45,000 that day. Filed for bankruptcy, lost my home, was in the throes of this addiction. And when I noticed that if I was really upset about something, I would shake and thought to myself, you know, there's something more going on with me, but I'm not sure what's going on. So I lived in my car coming from out west to Gastonia. And it's hard to imagine what that kind of life was. Now, you know, when I say I'm homeless, I had friends along the way and so forth. I always had something to eat and a place to shower, et cetera, et cetera. Or I would stop at a local church and just say, I need a shower and a meal, and I don't want to look at you because you're a priest, step aside. And got what I wanted. And so when I came here, that's when the throes of my addiction really got crazy. And I will tell you what all of you did for me was save my life. Save my life. And I'm here because this isn't about me. This is a power of the God of my understanding who works and talks through all of you, that I am living and breathing here today is nothing short of a miracle. So, that December of 2012, I'm in the hospital. I'm hooked up to every imaginable machine and tubes, et cetera, and the doctor says to me, Richard, I don't know if you're going to pull through. You have liver failure, kidney failure, you're suffering from congestive heart disease, blah, blah, blah. So he said, I would make sure that all of your affairs are in order. So I did, and I wasn't afraid until I saw my mother come to my bedside dressed in black. She's dying. You only wear black when you're near death, okay? So I thought, she's in that black dress. I think I'm dying. And I really didn't care at this point at all, because I had done what I did, and that's enough for me. So the next person that comes into my room is a priest. He's about 12 years old, fresh from seminary, and this is his first time of giving last rites. And he said, I'm Father Kevin. I said, Doogie Howser comes to mind. I said, how old are you, son? He said, I get that all the time. I had this baby face, and, you know, but yes, you are the first time I'm doing this to. So I said, okay. The last person I really wanted to see on my deathbed was a priest. But I thought, well, if you are dying, what the hell. So he starts doing the last rites, and I am increasingly frustrated with this buffoon straight out of the monastery or the seminary because he's not doing it right. You want to talk about a control freak? I said, Father, you're not doing this right. He said, well, I'm a nervous wreck here. You're my first dying patient. There are no children here, are there? I said, give me that goddamn prayer book. Turn to page 16. You are fucking up my last rites. And I am not about to have it. So my mother, who's this devout Catholic dressed in black, was like, oh my God, he's causing a scene, even on his deathbed. So I went till December 28th that year, and my kid came out with her husband, and off to detox I go. And from detox I go into rehab. And I'm in the rehab about almost 3 weeks, and the head doctor says to me, everybody else has quit shaking here except you. You're an anomaly. And I said, I always have been, so bring it on. What do you think? And he said, I'm going to send you to a specialist. And so the other reason that I am profoundly grateful to be alive through all of you was that doctor sent me to a neurologist, and they had discovered that I had Parkinson's, early stage Parkinson's. So all that medication that I was on for the nervous breakdown, like Klonopin, like Xanax, like a few other things that I can't even remember what it was, had me fully addicted. And the only way I could stop the shaking was alcohol. So I would drink to stop the shaking. So in rehab, God bless the young men that worked down there with me in Florida, because they would literally hand feed me and shave me every morning. And so I was sent to a neurologist, and he said, you're in luck. He said, I have some friends in high places, and I'm going to get you in with the Michael J. Fox Foundation, and there's new medicines coming out, et cetera, et cetera. So another long story short of how my life was saved, I am one of 200,000 people on this infusion that I receive every 6 to 7 weeks, which I hear now is part of medication I receive is part of the medication that's already shown success in the cure. So, for the past 8 years, I have been clean and sober and not on anything, and so grateful to be alive, and a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. So, my mind is scattering here. So, I want to tell you, that's what happened to me, and I want to tell you what it's like today. I had tons of seminary classes, ancient church history, the 3 languages of Greek, Latin, and Hebrew, church history, the sacraments, etc. So I had it all up here. It wasn't until I got into Alcoholics Anonymous that all that book knowledge came alive. Came alive to me. And so today I know that this life that I'm living is not about me, and that's my first gift, because I know that every time I help somebody else, I'm doing God's will. God's will is not a checklist of things that you have to accomplish. It's not like a bucket list. It's doing the next right thing and being happy with what you choose. That's God's will for us. It doesn't matter what profession that you're in or whatever. It's just doing the next right thing. Today I'm a volunteer at the hospital. I'm a volunteer counselor and chaplain. I go there 5 days a week. I'm also Gastonia County's liaison for different Christian churches when their pastors are not used to what to do with one of us. They call me and I do an intervention with the family and the person. So, my work of service is extended beyond what I do for us. And my life today is unbelievable. And here's the deal. It's not, anybody can quit drinking and get off drugs medically, with medical support. Okay, we've all done that. The challenge is staying off liquor and the other substances. So here's what I've learned for me. Until I completely surrendered to the fact that I have this insidious disease that will take my life, nothing is going to go my way. The big book says the number one offender for us in relapse is resentments. Thank you. I got to tell you, that's not been my experience. I have lost so many sponsors to death. And it wasn't about resentments, y'all. This is just my experience. It's about men who are so proud that they won't ask for help. It's about pride and ego. I got to know the Gaston County coroner on a first-name basis, which is not one of my pleasures. And I can tell you, 2 of my men committed suicide 9 days apart. And what my eyes have seen, no man should have to see. No man should have to see. And it's needless. It's needless. Don't ever, ever be afraid to say to one another, I'm not doing well. I need help. Because if you don't, you won't be sitting here next year. I can promise you that. And what hurts my heart is that I want you to have what I have. I want you to find what I found. It's not just about quitting drinking and using. It's about when you surrender and allow the God of your understanding to transform your life, you will be transformed. And there's 2 things that you can always indicate, how well am I doing in this program? It's about peace and serenity. If you're losing your peace and serenity, something is wrong somewhere. Maybe you can't see it because we have what's called a disease of what? Perception. I can't always see. And the men in my life are welcome to call me on my shit at any time because I can't see the things that I'm doing wrong. And I'm very happy to call them on their shit and take their because you know what? I want them to live. Period. And, it goes for the females in the program too, that I have entrusted, care to and my life to, and they pray for me and support me. They know that they are welcome to come to me anytime and say, you doing okay? Something here is not right. So gratitude fills my heart every single day I am so stubborn, y'all. I am so rebellious against authority. I will tell you this story and then put me back on track. Okay, so I'm in the monastery. One of our priests had died. It's the morning after I have a terrible hangover. And my superior, who was just an asshole, said to me, why isn't Father Joseph here for breakfast? It's your duty to get Joseph down here for breakfast. And every morning, he is late because you're late. I want Father Joseph here for breakfast. And I wanted to tell him that he's not hungry this morning. He doesn't feel like breakfast, okay? And out comes the rebellious alcoholic in my mind. He said, you go upstairs and you get him down here for breakfast. I said, okay. So I went upstairs got Father Joseph in his wheelchair, who had died about 9 hours before, and brought him to breakfast. Wheeled his poor little stiff ass right next to my food. I said, now, you know, I'm not a doctor or anything, but I don't think he has a appetite here this morning. Rebellious. You know, I have done everything my sponsors have told me to do. My first sponsor was Mark Lineberger, God rest his soul. He was ruthless with me, and I'm here to tell you, as a 64-year-old, absolutely adorable man before your eyes, that he used to make me cry every damn day. I used to have a butt you could bounce a quarter off of. No more. And then I had Oscar, sweet Oscar, who we buried just a few months ago. And so I said, you know, the two older men. I'm going to find somebody younger so that they will survive me, you know. So I'm not going to break his anonymity and tell you who my sponsor is, but he speaks kind of with a South African accent, right? He's from South Africa. He's been a blessing in my life. I've done the steps, and don't do what I did. You know, rebel against certain things that you had to do, doing the steps. Do what your sponsor tells you to do. Even though you don't want to do it, even though you don't want to understand it, it will pay off in the end. And once you get some time, you'll understand it. Like Mark Lineberger, God rest his soul, said to me, you have a really bad resentment against one of the priests back west. And he said, what you're going to do is you are going to write an apology letter to that priest for all the things that you did wrong. And then you are going to, if he doesn't want to see you, then you're going to move on with your life. So the day I'm to get on that plane at 4:15, had a red eye, the bastard died. So I called Mark and I said, that priest is dead. Smitten by God's hand, I'm quite sure. He said, then you're going to go to the cemetery. You're going to bring your note, and you're going to bring some flowers, and you're going to go to the cemetery. I said, okay. So, borrowed my sister's car, had the note, saw the Circle K or 7-Eleven, whatever it was, saw that little bouquet of flowers in the store, right next to the ice machine. And I said, flowers or ice? Flowers or ice? What could this dear priest need more than a bag of ice? Because I'm quite sure he's burning in hell. So, instead of the flowers, I brought a bag of ice. And I drove myself to that cemetery, so excited to put that 10-pound bag of ice on top of his dirt. And so that's exactly what I did. Got back in my car, called Mark Lineberger, said, you'd be so proud of me. I brought my note to the cemetery. And he said, and the flowers? I said, well, I didn't do so good on that one. He said, what did you do? I said, I put a bag of ice on his a 10-pound bag of ice. He said, you crazy son of a bitch, you get back to that 7-Eleven and you buy those flowers. So I did. I listened to him. I went back, I got the flowers, and I stuck the flowers in the bag of ice. And there you have it. I want to read you something. First of all, I want to thank you for putting up with me for so long. This is the third time I think I have spoken in the past couple of years. I think it's been only because I lose my train of thought, and say a prayer for me that this treatment online for the Parkinson's. Because look, I'm good. Yeah, I'm still not good here, but I was crazy before that started. But I'm good and I'm blessed. So keep praying that continues to work, not just for myself, but so many hundreds of thousands who suffer from that disease. It says on page 164, without my readers, we realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask Him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man or woman who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order, but obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with God is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. If it happened for me, it'll happen for you. And whatever you need to get there, I'm willing to help. Thanks for letting me share.